Somewhere in Orkney, off the north coast of Scotland, a storm tore the grass off a sand dune in the winter of 1850. Underneath was a house, not a cave, not a hole in the ground, a house. With stone beds, a stone shelf, a stone fireplace, built 5,000 years ago by people with no metal tools at all. The question that follows is simple, and historians still argue over the details. How do you cut solid rock with rock? If you were living there, a storm, sand ripping off a dune, and underneath, stone walls standing exactly where they were left. This is Skara Brae, a Neolithic village on the edge of Scotland. Archaeologists who dug here expected fire pits, maybe a few tools. Instead, they found furniture, stone dressers, stone beds, stone shelving, still standing after 5,000 years. Every single piece cut, shaped, and fitted by hand. No metal existed yet, no wheels, no writing, just people, rock, and time. So the real question isn't whether ancient humans could build in stone. It's how. Rewind further. Hundreds of thousands of years earlier, picture an Ice Age landscape, wind cutting across open grassland, a river running low and gray under a pale sky. A family moves through it, parents, children, an elder walking slower than the rest. They have no walls, no roof but the sky. At night, the cold isn't a discomfort, it's a threat. Archaeologists believe early humans first sheltered wherever the land offered protection. A rock overhang, a shallow cave, the leeward side of a hill. But caves are rare, and they belong to whoever finds them first, sometimes animals. So the deeper problem forms. If shelter isn't given by the landscape, someone has to build it. Here's where the story gets surprising. For decades, historians assumed real construction, actual architecture, began with farming, with settled village life. Only a few thousand years ago. Then, in 2023, archaeologists working at Kalambo Falls in Zambia found something that broke that timeline completely.
Two large logs, notched, shaped, deliberately joined together, dated to at least 476,000 years ago. Long before our species, Homo sapiens, even existed. Researchers believe it was the foundation of a platform, or part of a dwelling. Someone, not us, but a human relative, looked at two pieces of wood and decided they belong together. That decision is the real beginning of architecture. Wood came first, stone came later. But stone would last forever.
Long before anyone built a wall, humans had already mastered something just as important: breaking stone on purpose. Around 2.6 million years ago, in what's now Ethiopia and Tanzania, early humans developed the first known stone tool kit. Archaeologists call it the Oldowan tradition. Watch the process. It's simpler than you'd expect, and harder than it looks. A hand lifts a hammerstone. A strike, angled, not random. A flake shears off, edge sharp enough to cut hide or bone. Every strike is a calculation. Too soft, and nothing breaks. Too hard, and the stone shatters wrong. This is knowledge passed hand to hand, generation to generation, with no written instructions at all. It would take over 2 million more years before anyone tried to break stone at the scale of a wall. But the principle never changed. Stone breaks along its weakest line. Find that line, and you control the break. That single idea, find the weak line, is the seed of every stone building on Earth.
Cutting a flake for a knife is one problem. Splitting a block big enough to build a wall is another problem entirely. Picture a quarry, gray rock stretching under open sky, a group studying a single boulder, walking around it, touching its surface. Stone doesn't split where you want. It splits where it wants, along hidden cracks, weak seams, natural faults invisible until they're found. Push too hard in the wrong place, and days of work shatter into rubble. So the challenge isn't strength. Brute force alone barely dents solid rock. The challenge is reading the stone. Understanding where it wants to break, long before you touch it. That kind of knowledge doesn't come from one lucky guess. It comes from failure. Repeated, patient, generational failure.
Somewhere along the way, someone found the trick that changed everything. Not a bigger hammer, a wedge. Archaeological evidence from later stone-working cultures, Egypt among them, shows wooden wedges driven into existing natural cracks in a rock face. Then, in some techniques, those wedges were soaked with water. The wood swells, slowly, quietly, and the crack it sits in grows. No shouting, no violence, just patience, applied in exactly the right spot. Eventually, the block gives way, splitting along the line the builders chose, not the line the rock would have chosen alone. Later stoneworkers refined this further. Metal wedges and thin metal spacers called feathers, driven in together along a marked line, each strike coordinated so the stone splits clean. But the principle traces back to that first wedge. Work with the stone's nature, not against it. It's not about defeating rock, it's about persuading it.
Return to Skara Brae. Here, the evidence isn't buried, it's standing. The walls are what archaeologists call dry stone, no mortar, no binding material at all. Just stone fitted against stone, shaped to lock together under its own weight. Excavators found something else too, layers of clay, ash, and even old refuse, called midden, packed between the inner and outer wall to trap heat and block Orkney's brutal wind. The people here weren't guessing. Every house follows nearly the same layout: a hearth in the center, stone beds along the sides, a stone dresser facing the door. That kind of repetition doesn't happen by accident. It means knowledge, shared, taught, repeated across generations, refined a little more each time. Historians describe it plainly. This wasn't primitive building. It was engineering, built from what the land provided, understood in extraordinary depth. A stone wall does something a hide tent or a wooden frame cannot. It stays, through storms, through generations, through centuries after the people who built it are gone. That permanence changed how humans lived. A movable camp can be abandoned in an hour. A stone house is an investment in one place, one community, one future. Historians connect this shift toward permanent stone architecture with deeper changes: settled farming, stored food, growing populations, the first real villages. Walls didn't just keep out the wind. They gave people a reason to stay. Every technique in this story still exists today, just wearing modern clothes. The wedge that Neolithic builders drove into a crack by hand? Modern quarries still use wedges, hydraulic ones now, splitting stone along its natural weak line. The instinct to study a material before cutting it, rather than forcing it? Every engineer, every architect, every mason still begins there. Even the humble dry stone wall, no mortar, just balance and gravity, is still built today, across the hills of Britain, Ireland, and beyond, using nearly the same hand-eye judgment as 5,000 years ago. We didn't leave this knowledge behind. We built on top of it, literally. Stand in Skara Brae today, and you can rest your hand on a stone shelf that someone else's hands shaped. 5,000 years before yours existed. No blueprint survived, no name survived, just the work itself, still standing. Historians will keep arguing over details. Which techniques came first? How knowledge spread between distant communities? What daily life inside these walls truly felt like? But one thing needs no debate. Somewhere, a very long time ago, a person looked at an unshaped rock and saw a wall inside it. Every building you've ever stood in, every home, every skyscraper, every quiet room that's kept you warm, begins with that same act of imagination. We are still living inside their idea. If this kind of story is worth telling, it's worth passing on. Subscribe and come find the next one with us.